Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast. Conversations designed for the veteran and first responder community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. Hi there, listeners, and today we have with us the amazing Jeff Garland. Now, I discovered Jeff probably about 2 years ago now on social media because his posts really resonated with my theory that we are not broken and we can create change in our lives no matter what we do. And I have followed this man ever since and brought him on today to introduce himself. Welcome, Jeff.
Hello, Kate. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support and for giving me a chance to share my story with your listeners.
Absolutely. And what is it that you're doing these days? Can you share that with us?
So for me, I'm a big believer that things in life happen for a reason. So I now run my own business, specializing in mental health and post-traumatic stress recovery and growth because of my journey in the police, with the battling of post-traumatic stress, being diagnosed, being discharged, being suicidal, to now being fully recovered. So I now work with clients around the world to help them process their past, their traumas, without going into detail, so they can reclaim their life to start living the life that they deserve because they've already sacrificed and suffered enough. So someone needs to be there for them.
Yeah, and there's so much even in that short sentence that you've just said that I could completely unpack, right? But the part that I love the most is that you're claiming, you're claiming as in embodying and taking on, yes, I have helped to transform and recover from PTS, and I'm owning that. It's the word, not claiming, owning. And I love that. So thank you. And also like the lives that people deserve. Yes. You actually do. You were born worthy, people. You were born worthy to create change in your life and to live your best life. So thank you for bringing the work that you do into this world.
Thank you. I love what I do, and I never thought that my path would be on this, but I always thought I was going to be a policeman. But now I get to serve the police who are struggling, who don't have that support, who don't have the awareness that they need to process the events and stuff from their past, because they're doing a job that a lot of people couldn't do when they're being left alone, being abandoned. And because of the experience that I've gone through, my journey, not only going through it, but getting through it, to being on the other side of post-traumatic stress, then I can definitely use my experiences and my qualifications and my results to help those who are helping others, because they really, really need it, not just in emergency services, but also in the military as well.
Yeah, in life in general. But I think definitely the community that we both serve, to have self-awareness is something that we don't really get a chance to have when we're in, because you've got a job to do and you're in that sort of go, 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 do phase. So this is all new learnings. And I called my podcast The Curious Collective because I'd love your opinion on this. It's so important to get curious and to ask questions and to want to dive a bit deeper into you.
It's true, because the fact that, especially being in the emergency services or military, what happens is that we've got rules and guidelines we're supposed to follow. There's certain things we do go along with the culture and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're all human, so we don't always have to do the things that always have been done, because what used to work years ago may not be relevant and work as effectively now, because as time changing, people are becoming more elevated, more aware. So therefore, new modalities, new opportunities are becoming available to people that can actually work a lot better, a lot faster, as opposed to, say, the old talk therapy, exposure therapy, which used to work in the past, but may not be the best and is not the only option available for those who are serving and struggling because of their service or past traumas, to actually process what they need to move forward.
Yeah, very valuable. There was a lot in that as well. Thank you. So you're at a place now where you're of service to others, but where did this journey start for you? What brought you to be on the path that's got you here on this podcast with us today?
So it's been a long journey. So I was first diagnosed. I'm a retired senior sergeant. I served 16 years in the New South Wales Police before I was medically discharged in 2011. I was first diagnosed in 2001 after I jumped into the tray of a Stalin Ute in Redfern. Good idea at the time. But at that stage, I knew I wasn't coping. I just didn't understand why. I just thought I was weak. I was in the wrong job because you can't talk about it. There's lack of support. Certainly was no education about what post-traumatic stress was. So I wasn't coping, but I thought it was me. So I did the unpolice-like and unbloke-like thing. I put my hand up, went and got help. As a result, I was able to return to work for another 10 years. So I was promoted
Wow.
sergeant. I finished my book. I started my law degree. I broke 3 Guinness World Records. I was still a very effective operational officer and loving husband and father. So for me, it was a journey. But then I didn't learn. I was able to process the events from the past that allowed me to go back to work, but then I got involved in more life-threatening things that just compounded, and I didn't use the same techniques that I did to actually get me to be able to return to work. So it became too much. Then I got a serious back injury. Then I was discharged. And because of the fact of the loss of identity, because we all usually attach, especially in emergency services and military, we attach who we are to what we do. I couldn't walk, couldn't work. I was told it was something I had to learn to live with.
Who says that? Seriously.
It happens way too often, even treating specialists say these days, which is the wrong message. But I became suicidal. But then I realized, that I've done this before, I can do it again. So now I'm fully recovered. I can visit my locations. I can speak about my events in detail without being affected. So, as I said at the beginning of the conversations, I believe I went through what I went through in order for me to get through here. It happened for a reason. It's hard to see that when you're actually going through it. There's always a positive and a negative, but now I can look back going, that happened that way. I had to go through that journey by myself to actually get to where I am, because now my level of awareness is so much greater than most other people, especially in terms of post-traumatic stress, because I've been doing NLP for over 25 years. I've been on the PTS journey for over 20 years. So, and I'm fully qualified in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy. So I have all these tools as well as lived experience on my side. I've also got results. So I can actually speak to people in a way that they understand, that they can relate to, because I've gone through it as well. I know what it's like, without them having to go into detail. So now I can actually use my services to help people. I don't have to do it because of the fact that, I'm fully recovered. I can go, yep, I can just move on with my life. I have my law degree, but as I said, I believe that things in life happen for a reason. This is my path. This is my purpose. It's something that I have to do. It's a must for me in order to, because I know that there's so many people out there struggling because of life, because of childhood, because of service, that aren't getting the help and support that they need. They've given the wrong messages. And it's my job, my purpose to actually help them in any way that they will allow me to.
Oh my goodness. Again, so much. Man, you talk fast. So there's the path and the purpose. Loved that the most. There is, I've got another beautiful friend in our space that says, how are you today? Yeah, good. I'm following my path. We're always where we're meant to be, doing what we're meant to be doing, even if it's really shitty. There's a reason that you're there. There might be a lesson or something in it for you. And you can probably talk into that a little bit more in a second. But what I would love for you to go into now, for those listeners that don't know what NLP, hypnosis, and the work that you have found and are now teaching and doing is.
Okay, so for me, as I said, I've been doing NLP or neuro-linguistic programming for over 25 years. I did that just before I joined the job, and I actually used NLP to fully recover. So NLP is about how we communicate with ourselves, the words we use to describe our experiences, because the words we use to describe the experience become the experience. So we need to make sure that we're framing them in the correct way. It's about interrupting our patterns of thoughts and our associations based on our past. So basically, we're looking at life through the lens of what's happened to us, and it's the words that we use that is our interpretation and perspective of what's happening. It may not be true, it may not be real, but it is what it is. So I've been doing that very, very effectively for over 25 years. In the last 6 years, I've also learnt hypnotherapy and timeline therapy. Now, timeline therapy is my most favorite modality to use because it's not talk therapy, it's not exposure therapy. It actually allows people to identify what are the events from the past that are affecting you. What's the event, what's the emotion, and what's the belief? And through the process, we release the trauma emotion by emotion. So I can help people release anger and sadness from their past in less than an hour without going into detail, or from the safety and comfort of their own home. And I love the fact that and it was actually introduced in England back in the 80s when to actually help soldiers come back from war, to help process. But the way I do it seems to be a lot more effective than what's happening. But organizations, they like to approve the old modalities of the talk therapy. And I mean, I don't bag out any, as long as someone's doing something that works for them, fantastic. But just because it's always been done doesn't mean you always have to do it. There's certainly a lot more.
Ask the questions, get curious.
That's right. And that's why I love doing what I do, because there's no detail. I don't have to take on what they're telling me, and they haven't got to go into detail too. Like, I've treated psychologists before too, because they do the talk therapy and exposure therapy. They've got their own stuff, but they're also taking on their client stuff too. In the way that I do it, they don't go into detail, they don't spiral, they haven't got to relive anything. I don't take their stuff on either, which certainly helps us and creates better results. And I also do hypnotherapy, which is about being able to reprogram the mind. And I do that at the end of my programs because of the fact that it's much easier to reprogram the mind once you've released all the events that have created these negative associations and beliefs that have caused you to do that. So once we get clear out the emotions and the events, by the time we get to the hypnotherapy, your body's in a more relaxed, more positive state, much easier to reprogram with healthy suggestions and habits. So yeah, I love the fact that I get to use them and to work with clients all around the world in a place where they're willing to choose themselves, to make themselves the priority.
Oh, the thing you just said is the most important out of all of that, is like people choosing themselves, right?
That's right.
How, from your work you've been doing over the last 25 years, like how many people don't choose themselves?
I think pretty much everybody, every day, every second of every day, because we all come from a level of awareness that we believe is possible. Mine's greater because of the fact that I've gone through it and gotten through it. So because of the lack of education and awareness, that people don't know what post-traumatic stress is. They don't know how the mind works. They don't know how trauma affects the brain. They don't know that they can actually be in control, make conscious decisions to actually go on a different timeline, a different path. So they keep doing the same sort of things and think that basically they're stuck, that they can't get any better. We've got specialists saying that it's a life sentence. You have to learn to live with it. We've got people are socializing on Facebook groups and stuff that just reinforce the negative, the fact I'm stuck.
I cannot be in those Facebook groups. I just am like get itchy reading them.
I mean, I've been kicked out of Facebook groups before because I mentioned the word recovery, I mentioned the word hope and help and stuff like that, and I get abused because of the fact that how dare I say that? But
take their label away from them.
Exactly right. My level of awareness is much greater and I'm giving people hope, but they are coming from a place of guilt and shame, the fact that they haven't done it and they don't believe it's possible and they've got their own stuff going on. So, but people just live unconsciously, keep going in the circle, the cycle, stay on the hamster wheel until usually something significant happens and they something comes into their vibration and they may connect with me and this sounds a bit different and open new doors and stuff like that. But people are in a comfort zone because they've been there and they believe and been told that they're stuck, that they don't believe anything else is possible. So they tend to stay there because it's safer for them to stay there as opposed to actually make themselves the priority, take that step, trust in somebody else who's actually walked the path for them.
Trust, yes, they got to feel safe. And I feel like conversations like we're having right now, yes, they create curiosity and make people ask the questions and want to do this, but also open the door for a place to be seen and heard and to feel safe to enable to do this work. So, you know, guests that we have on here have all sorts of different modalities. And, you know, it might be someone will attend a sound healing or a breathwork session or something that plants that seed for them. And then, like you just said, which I think is so beautiful, they're in that vibration that then brings you into their awareness and they're like, oh, who's this guy? And they might investigate and follow the breadcrumbs around you and go, oh, look at what he's done. Maybe I can do that. Yeah. And come and see you for a session. So the listeners, I believe, that we've got listening to this podcast are the ones that are already at the door peeping in, that want some answers. So and we chatted about something before the call, which I think is really cool that I want to bring up, is so many within our community are out there, give of service, helping. I put that in inverted commas for those that aren't watching the video. But they're not actually choosing themselves, that Jeff just spoke so beautifully about, and actually helping themselves. So could we have a little conversation about that one from your experience watching people within our community over the last decade?
Absolutely. And it's very important because the fact that, especially those who are in the services, emergency services, military things, our job is to serve others, is to protect others. So it's always about others and not about us. So at the end of the day, we're only human. We need to make sure that we're okay, that our cup's full, that we can actually have enough to help others, but also have more than enough for ourselves. So I always say to love or give from the overflow. So it's important that we do stuff that is make sure that we're okay, because people being in services, we want to help people, but people who are struggling with their own mental health, whether it's post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, child trauma, whatever it is, they'll go and help. But when they speak to people, especially when they do have the conversations, the talk therapy and sit down with someone, people like in our industry like to talk. We like to offload. We like to tell stories. But what that is doing is that person's unloading onto this other person who's already got their own stuff, So therefore, it just adds and overflows their bucket even more. And it can actually make the other person feel okay, but then that person who's trying to help walks away worse, because what the other person could be saying could be triggering to them, could bring up their own stuff, could actually add to their feelings of isolation, overwhelmed, feeling lost and stuck. So although we like to care for others, the most important person we need to care for is ourselves. And we do that by processing our past, by actually looking at things in a different perspective, being curious, as you say, because we don't have to keep doing things you always used to do. Like we never used to have computers, we never used to have internet. Now we've got this AI stuff. Like it's okay to adapt. It's okay to be curious and investigate, because if you keep doing the same sort of things that don't work, or you stay where you are, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. So you need to be open to look at what else is available, rather than being told you're stuck. Okay, just go, okay, and just stay there. You've got to put yourself first. You've got to go look beyond where you are and find out what other people are doing. Even if it's just a conversation, if you just connect with them, read their stories, watch a video or something like that. You need to be open to doing something different that you haven't done before, because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results.
That is just pure gold, what's just come out of your mouth. And the thing I also got out of there is, like, you know, these outlandish blanket, you know, this is how you've got to live with it type comments coming from professionals. You're like, okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know that. But I don't choose that for me. I'm going to investigate other things to see if this is actually what, you know, I'm not going to just listen to you. I'm going to go and try all these other things, or read some stuff, or watch some videos, or chat to people. Yeah.
Because a lot of that comes back to the lack of education and awareness. So because we don't know what post-traumatic stress is, because we label it as a disorder, our mind creates its own association, its own interpretation. So we may see someone at work one day who's not there the next. They've been discharged, their family relationship's broken down, they're addicted to alcohol, they've attempted suicide, or they've taken their own life. And to us, that's the association we create with us to create to that. So if it happens to them, then it could happen to me. And then we get told by the specialists, by these Facebook group supporters and things like that, our friends whose level of awareness is only based on their own interpretation and what they've been told, is the fact that you're stuck. So we tend to stay there. So it's important that you connect with the right people, because even the specialists and everyone else, like, they haven't got the lived experience. Yes, they may have read the things saying this is what post-traumatic stress is, this are the signs and symptoms, this is what you should do, take this medication. But they're coming from their own level of awareness, based on their level of expertise, based on their education, what they've learnt. Whereas someone like me who's gone through it before, I've done all that, I've got the expertise, but I've also got the experience. So I can stand back and go, you know, that's okay. You can, I mean, if you want to go get your car fixed, you want to get it fixed by someone who's read a manual on how to fix a car, or someone who's had the head under the bonnet. Same with surgery, same with whatever else. I'm not just someone who's read a book. I've actually lived it for over 20 years. I've gotten results. I've made mistakes. Like, I wish I had me now back then when I first started, but I needed to go through that journey, that process. I've made a lot of mistakes going, but now, when knowing what I know now, I can say, look, I'm an expert in this. I understand what post-traumatic stress is, what it isn't. It's not a disorder. It's not a definition. It's a diagnosis. Okay. I know how to help people. I know how to release it without going into detail. I know what to do. There's such an amazing life this side of service and trauma. People are just too far away, disconnected, or not aware of what's possible. So they need to just be curious, just be open, have conversations, and just put themselves first. Because time's one thing we can't get back. We can't wait another 3 weeks, 6 months, 6 years sort of thing, because we don't have that time. We've only got a finite amount of time on this planet. And like COVID started nearly 4 years ago. It's already nearly November already. And the more time we waste, the more time we lose. So you've got to decide for yourself, make a decision, be honest with yourself, and actually take those steps to reach out, because help's available. You're not broken. You're not crazy.
Yes.
You're just going through, all post-traumatic stress is unresolved negative emotional events from the past. It's your body's way of saying to you that, you've been involved in things in your past that's having an effect upon you. And the symptoms are actually a positive. Because if you didn't have the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, you won't know you're affected. It's like the flu. If you didn't have the symptoms having the flu, you wouldn't know you were sick. Okay. These symptoms are actually your body's way to try and release the trauma in a physiological sort of way. It's telling you that you've been involved in stuff. You're only human doing a very inhuman job. And you just need to make sure you look after yourself and let go of the past. It would be more of a concern if you weren't affected by what you've been involved in, as opposed to the fact that you are, but the culture says that you can't reach out. And the problem isn't post-traumatic stress or the events. The problem is the culture. It
Mm.
allows these people to not feel like they can reach out for help. So it's not the fact that it's the jobs we tend, the things like that. It's the fact that the culture won't support you to do it. Because if you get the right support and education, no, it doesn't become post-traumatic stress until the first 30 days. So there's a gap there. You can actually go and get help, but no one's talking about it. So the culture just breeds the fact for this just to manifest and to control people's lives and end people's lives.
Man, there's so much goodness right there. Let's just for a second hypothesize a utopian system where, the first responder space and the military space has these support networks in place. They are able to go and seek support, and it's okay. There are holistic practices embedded into the services that enable people to regulate their nervous system on a day-to-day basis, and people like yourself that are in there doing the subconscious work without all the talk therapy. How would that look, and what is even a place to start with that?
Well, the best place to start is education. It's about from the academy, like you're taught how to wrestle with an offender, what to do, when to discharge a firearm, all the laws and stuff you've got to use as part of the job. But we're not taught about, you are going to see stuff in your career that's going to have effect on you. And that's okay. If you do, this is what it is. These are the signs and symptoms. Here's where you get support. Here's treatment options available. It's to normalize the fact that you're going to get affected, and it's okay, because we all go in there passing all these psychological tests and stuff like that, but we all leave much worse than when we entered. So it's definitely the job, the culture, the lack of support that's the issue. So for it to start, it needs to go from the student police officer to the commissioner of police. It needs to be a conversation where we go, this problem's been around since before the Vietnam War, combat shock, combat trauma, things like that. They just keep renaming it, but we need to have an awareness. This is what's happening. The best thing to do, the best tool you can have is education and awareness, normalizing it. So it's okay to reach out. It's okay to go and get help. These are the signs and symptoms. This is what you do if you're struggling, and people will go and do it. I mean, I processed my stuff. I was able to return to work for another 10 years. So if I can do it, and I've worked with people who are on the streets, who have been struggling, who are now doing really well at work because of the fact that they've been able to process the stuff in the past. So the longer we leave it, the more stuff's going to compound. We're losing a lot of very qualified, very experienced, very good officers. Something that doesn't have to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, I believe that you can recover from post-traumatic stress. You can definitely manage it, but I believe you can also prevent it. Because the fact that is definitely in terms of prevent the extent to which it affects people and to the extent of the number of people that are affected by it. Because if people had the awareness, that, okay, I'm not my job, it's not my identity, it's just what I do. They can have the external networks, which they can then go and use outside of it rather than be the job, live the job. Because once you go off, the job's not there. You're left alone, you're abandoned. Everyone feels that sense of abandonment, that loss of identity. If people are aware, okay, these are the signs and symptoms, I can chat to my spouse, I can chat to my partner, I can go and get help, and it's okay to go and do that. And share that experience, that knowledge, knowing that it's okay, and that will better support you in the job that you do. So it's about taking a step back, admitting, okay, no one's to blame. Let's just focus forward on what we need to do. There's so many people out there struggling who don't need to, and then being left alone once they're being discharged from the services, which is the wrong thing to do for sure.
Absolutely, they are. And there is so much wisdom in that. So everyone listening, rewind that last part and listen to it, because that was pure gold. Jeff, you have so much knowledge and wisdom around this space, and I know it's from your lived experience as well. And I just wanted to drop in for the listeners as well. You never stop doing the work. And it isn't something that I want you to focus on doing like only every 2 years when shit gets really bad. Like actually do a little bit each day to regulate, to prevent, to bring your body into homeostasis, so that when things happen too hard, too fast, too soon, you're able to take that in your stride, process it, chat with people like Jeff's just spoken into, and to continue on in a really peaceful, calm, harmonious way. Life can be easier if you choose you and stay curious, pretty much.
That's definitely the case, because people either change through inspiration or desperation. They let things compound and build up until it explodes, because basically they don't know what to do. They don't think that's okay. There's a stigma around mental health and reaching out for help and everything else. So by doing things like meditation, yoga, going for walks, doing stuff that actually fills your cup, that looks after you, having conversation, leading a life beyond service, then you can actually deal with it. Going, getting help, go and get treatment, things for that's already happened to you. It allows you to look at things from a different perspective, because what happens is when we experience something, the unconscious mind takes in everything that's involved in, and we link an emotion to it. Okay, so it puts a red flag in that. So when something happens in the future, we react with the emotion that we attach to that experience. So you're looking through a lens of everything that's happened to you in the past. And that's what's going to come up for you each time you get involved in something or get triggered by something. So by being able to identify, being aware, going and get the help, being curious, then doing the stuff that works for you, just looking after yourself, just being human, being kind to yourself, because it's a very difficult job, and we can be very hard on ourselves. Just, it's okay to put yourself first, to actually look after you, because then you can live the life you want. You can actually look after other people and make a difference and share your experiences to help other people. Because now, I'm one voice, you're another voice. There needs to be a lot more voices out there sharing a similar sort of message. You don't have to relive the trauma in order to release it. You don't have to keep doing the same things you're doing. Other options are available. Choose you, reach out, have those conversations, and just be open to other possibilities.
Boom. Listeners, what a fantastic episode. I am so grateful that you had the time to come on and speak with us, Jeff. So much wisdom. Thank you very much. And I think we'll have you back at some stage, because there is a lot more to be spoken into in this space.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to have that conversation. I love talking about this. I talk fast, just ask that the listeners listen faster. But I love to have this conversation, because there's so much work that needs to be done in this space, in the military and emergency services, and people in life as well. So just know that there is hope, there is help, and you just got to reach out to those right people and just choose you, make yourself that priority.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If this episode brought some wisdom for you, please share it with those that you know and love that may need to hear this as well. Katie out.